committing the most amount of acts are not those with mental disabilities. So here's another one. The state of the nation: deaf regimes, blind terrorists, and the mute masses, right? So now we go into the case studies, and I really want to, I'm not going to, I'm not critiquing any specific individual, even though people are going to pop up. I'm critiquing the individual's philosophy and the comments that they say publicly. And green anarchism, which was critiqued by AJ and myself, opposed to technology of any sort. So if you need a heart transplant, if you need any operations whatsoever, they believe that the medical industrial complex should be destroyed, right? And that we should go back to the wild. What does that mean? Opposed to interdependency, the whole DIY mentality that they're very for. They're opposed to capitalism. Well, that's great, and so is eco-ability, but where is the interdependency? And so we see that similar philosophies to grow needs to be challenged. Against transgendered identity. Why so? Because to have a gender modifications on your body, that takes medical reconstruction and surgery, right? And they're opposed to that. So the transgender community has come out against green anarchists, opposed to civilization, opposed to domination and oppression, but perpetuating these other, and then the romanticization of the wild and the native, that everything is romantic and no one, commits violence and eating roadkill and dumpster diving, etc. So there's good in the green anarchist philosophy, but there's also, critiques to be had, right? A phenomenal book that has been gotten t-shirts, patches, stickers, etc. is Hello, My Name is Vegan, The Vegan Freak by Bob Torres and Jenna Torres, right? And there's some good information about becoming vegan in a non-vegan world. And that's all you need to say. But Torres and Torres writes, so regardless of how normal you are in a world where consuming animal products is the norm, you're always going to be seen as the freak if you obviously and clearly refuse to take part in an act of consumption that is essential to our everyday life and culture, even our very own personal identities, right? So, or religion, and etc. And I think, could they make that argument without saying free? And the answer is yes. We could make a lot of the argument without saying these ableist language, right? But we don't have that. So Bob Bogdan, or Robert Bogdan, my professor at Syracuse University, retired. He created a book called Freak Show. And there's two terms in constructing freak. The freak, that's the abnormal as the native or the non-European, the non-colonial. And the second major category, as quoted, is consists of the monster, the medical individual, the abnormal through the monster or the oddity. So there's those two individuals that we can see in movies. Spartans or 300, et cetera, et cetera. We can see this over and over again being played out, and that the colonial is turned into a monster as well. Right? So then there is the law professor, Gary Francione, and he writes this, and I'll read it really quick. He puts it on his blog in defending, and he is a lawyer. He is not in no degree whatsoever does he have a medical degree or psychiatry or psychology degree. But we use these analogies, and he doesn't even say it's an analogy. He actually says it's a diagnosis, right? So some people accuse me of confusing moral schizophrenia with multiple split personality. When I talk about moral schizophrenia, I'm seeking to describe the delusional and confused way that we think about animals as a social moral matter. I think that's also called speciesism. The confusion can, of course, include conflicting or inconsistent ways of looking at animals. Some are family members and others are dinner, but that does not mean that I am describing a classic split or multi-personality. So he goes on to talk about how he defends this framework of moral schizophrenia, right? Noting that moral schizophrenia is something not to be rather than to embrace, right? So again, reinforcing this notion. He goes on to say, some people think by using the term I'm stigmatizing those have clinical schizophrenia because it implies that they are immoral people. I'm sincerely sorry. I mean that if anyone has interpreted that term in that way, and that is certainly not what I intended. Well, it doesn't matter what he intends, right? An Irish proverb, the hell paved with good intentions. So I didn't intend to drive over that squirrel yesterday, which I didn't, but the squirrel is still dead, right? And I think that's the fact. So we have another individual, Peter Singer, which we noted repetitively about. A number of people before he got his post at Princeton protested him. We was at the University of Vermont. Ida Hammer, transgender activist, protested him there. And again, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he just notes that a child with mental disabilities should and is justified to be tested upon or murdered. He would more like to see testing upon to help others with other disabilities, et cetera, to help the world. So he doesn't want to just disregard those with disabilities. He actually wants to exploit and test on them. One might say that's more ethical. I wouldn't. So here's another frame. It's PETA's thing. Why do you want to go vegan? It's not for the animals. Don't get it twisted, as one might say, that PETA's for animal rights. They want the world to look sexy. And they have an annual sexy, the Veggie and Vegan Sexiest Award, and you can figure out who, you can pick your friends, you can take a picture of yourself half naked, and send it to them and talk about all your wonderful things that you do. So vegans are sexy. There's the Sexy Vegan Cookbook. Another reinforcing this whole sex analysis, right? And sexy is ableism because we construct what is good looking and what is not good looking, right? And there's organizations out there that say that if you are not good looking to social standards, you shouldn't hand out literature, right? And if you are not one of those good looking people, try to make yourself look better. Work out. Cut your hair, groom yourself, wear certain clothes, etc. Perpetuate this normalcy and look-ism, right? So here, PETA has this wonderful because autism is the big boom globally. Has your child got autism? And making the connection between autism and milk. So don't have autism, it's negative. And if you do have autism, it's because of milk. And you've done something. Right? Here's another one of the sex symbols, right? Airbrush, we know who that is. So turn over a new leaf, perpetuating more sexist. And then, of course, we have a great one. Save the whales. Lose the blubber, go vegetarian, and they're not talking about whales in an ocean, right? This is PETA. So PETA, for the last 30 years, has been critiqued by ecofeminists, from Carol Adams to Patrice Jones to Marty Keel, and now they need to be critiqued on an ableist framework as well, on an ableist lens. So finally, we are now being fit and not for veganism, but if you were to be vegan, you could look like this too, right? Not that you'd be a more ethical individual, right? But you would have a six-pack, and your pants can go right above, certain body parts. So here's some words that I want to leave you with, and I always kind of say it, and I always add more and more, and we can have, question, comments, etc. Is not equality, because if I give you a ruler and I say, where's equality on that? you won't find it, I can guarantee. And we say, oh, I want equality. Well, if one person